There's a whole other side to crisis readiness that 99% of people overlook. What are these invisible essentials that could make a difference between survival or disaster? Stick around. The answers might surprise you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to SuttonsDaze. If you're new here, my name is Lisa, and we are all about pantry preparedness on a slightly breezy, cool, windy day, in case you can't hear it. Today, we're looking at some items that you might want to consider while we're becoming better prepared. Prepping isn't just about food. Yes, food is foundational, and we are all about pantry preparedness here. But it is not the only thing that you should be focusing on, because without light or heat or water, sanitation, or medical supplies, your pantry can become a little bit useless, mainly because crises don't come in single layers. That's not the way that it works. A storm, a power outage, a cyber attack doesn't just stop the food supply chain. That's not it. It knocks out power, water systems, and sometimes communication. Think back to, say, Hurricane Sandy. Millions of people had food in their homes, but they couldn't cook it, they couldn't keep it cold, and they couldn't even see in the dark. The missing piece wasn't the food, it was literally everything else. So what are some of the things that you should consider? We got you. We got you. Because it doesn't take a lot of money. It doesn't take a lot of space. It takes a little intentional thinking and preparing for it, and you're covered. So one of the things to consider is light. Light is imperative, especially when it's dark, right? And we're coming up on winter. Winter, it's dark more than it's light. It's just part of the fun of the season. So what you want to consider are things like flashlights, solar lanterns, LED strips, crank power lamps, even dollar store solar garden lights, okay? You may not get all night light out of them, but you will get enough light to hopefully help light your way. I still am a firm user and believer in those candles, the fake candles. You put a couple AA batteries in there, you set them on a timer, they go off every night at whatever time you set them. I love the things. I absolutely love them. And they don't use electricity, and it's cheaper for me, especially now, to spend $20 on a whole bunch of AA batteries, fill them all up twice a year, and let them do their magic. They're beautiful. Because light isn't just about convenience. It's about safety. It is. And about comfort. Because the dark can be scary, even for adults. And it's also for morale. Because sitting around in the dark all the time can really start to get to you. So darkness breeds accidents, fear, and crime. And that's something that you need to consider. Think back to the Texas freeze in 21, I think it was. People brought the outdoor solar lights to use indoors because it was a little bit warmer indoors for most of them. It was such a simple, overlooked solution, but it kept families safe and calm. It gives you that little bit of comfort. And even as adults, sometimes we just need a nightlight to feel better. Heat. Heat is so important. So think about things like wool blankets, Mylar survival blankets, hot water bottles, indoor safe propane heaters like the indoor Mr. Buddy heater, or just a tent setup. If you put a tent, a small pup tent, easy in your living room, it traps the body heat in the tent. It's a great way to help conserve some of that heat and make you more comfortable during a very uncomfortable situation. And you can take in your flashlights or your fake candles, and you can read a book and be comfortable. It's ambiance. That's what it is. Hypothermia can set in at 50 degrees Fahrenheit if you're wet or exposed. It doesn't have to actually be freezing. Only 50 degrees if you're wet or exposed. So staying warm really does matter more than staying full. At that point of the game, you gotta stay warm. You can always get something to eat, There's an example of a Michigan family that survived 3 nights without power by pitching their camping tent in their living room and sleeping inside with sleeping bags. Their pantry didn't save them. Their creativity and their warmth did. Yes, the pantry fed them, watered them, but that would have meant nothing if they were freezing. And can you imagine the body heat that 3 people can put off in an enclosed pup tent? Ingenious. Communication, because we need to talk. So things like your AM/FM radios, your NOAA weather radios, your ham radios, your walkie-talkies, your satellite messengers, there's all different kinds of things that you can do. When the grid goes down, so does information. And that is the dangerous part, honestly, when we're looking at a grid down situation nowadays, is that everything is electronic. So you really have to kind of give some special thought to this one and what works best for you in your situation. Not knowing is dangerous. Not being aware of what is going on, good, bad, or indifferent, is dangerous. And so information, communication is huge. After Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, ham radio operators were the only lifeline for many communities. Ham radio operators. They connected doctors, aid organizations, and families when everything else failed. How many of you have your ham license? Let me know in the comment section down below. Next is health and hygiene, because if you're dirty, you're going to get sick. It kind of goes beyond Band-Aids, move beyond the Band-Aids. You got to think a little bit broader than that. Think about wound closures. Think about antiseptics. Think about antibiotics, if possible, splints, and a solid first aid manual. You can have all the gear in the world, but if you don't know how to use it, it's a doorstop. So a simple, basic first aid manual will serve you a world of good. I love my trauma kit. Do I think I could do sutures? I think I could if I really had to. Do I ever want to? God, I hope not, but I have the equipment if I need to, and I've done some reading on it. I can fake it. Okay. Am I going to perform surgery? No, but I might be able to close a wound that otherwise, we might have some issues with if it didn't get closed. That's kind of what you're looking for. So get yourself a good first aid kit, and then get a good beginner first aid manual and read it. It's important to read it at least once. There was a man I remember reading about in rural Alaska, because all the cool stuff happens there, okay? And he sliced his hand really bad during a blizzard. You're not going anywhere during a blizzard. I don't care if you're in Alaska or Michigan. No hospital for hundreds of miles. He had a well-stocked trauma kit. I love my trauma kit, I'm telling you. And his wife's training, because his wife had some training, and it kept him from losing his hand. Just that little bit of knowledge, because of a freak accident during a blizzard when you legitimately cannot get to a medical facility. Those kinds of things can make all the difference. Do not forget about sanitation, because you need to think about it, even if you don't want to, right? Hand sanitizer, bleach, baby wipes, heavy duty trash bags. I'm all about construction trash bags, right? Gloves, makeshift toilet options like the 5-gallon bucket with the liners, okay? And now they've got the 5-gallon bucket that actually has a toilet seat on it. It's a beautiful thing. But honestly, it's good for people who are older and balance issues. And it's better with kids because it's more of a normal behavior for them, So you might really want to take a look into that. I'll have some links down below, but that just makes, easiest amount of sense. You can put a trash bag in there. It has a toilet seat. You can maybe put a little pine shavings or cat litter or something in there, and then tie it up and you're good to go. Those kind of things make a difference. History shows that poor sanitation kills more people in disasters than hunger. It does. People don't understand the need to keep it separate. They don't understand that putting that in whatever water source is nearby is not to anybody's benefit. And, just basic disease can happen from poor sanitation. So it's something good to read up on. It's not so, it's not just about going out and I'll dig a hole. No, there's a little more involved there. So it's a good thing to study just in case. Think about, we are so filled with natural disasters, right? Do you remember that earthquake that hit Haiti in 2010? Cholera spread through the refugee camps. And it wasn't because of the food, okay? It was because of sanitation. The sanitation collapsed, and that's why it spread. Those are the kinds of things that are taking people out. Another big one to consider is mental resilience. You really, sometimes you just got to get out of your own head, but when you're in the middle of a crisis situation, that's very hard to do. So look at things like books and puzzles and board games. Journaling is a great thing. Craft supplies, prayer, mindful practices. Okay, there's a ton of mindful practices out there. But if you're doing something like that, it helps to center you, and it helps make a stressful situation just a little less stressful. You have to pay attention to that. Long-term stress really wears people down a lot. Boredom turns into depression. That's not something you want to deal with when there's a crisis going on. And mental health tools are survival tools. They're part of survival. So figure out what works best for you during a crisis situation. Have those backup activities like books or journals or puzzles or, knitting, whatever. Have those that that you can do whether or not there's power, whether or not there's water, whether or not there's heat, something that's small, that's portable, and it will make things a lot better. Think about 2020. I know nobody wants to, it's still too soon, but families during COVID lockdowns who intentionally set up fun kits, board games, and projects handled isolation much better than those glued 24/7 to the news. A lot of us found new hobbies. A lot of us, found new ways to do the same old thing. It was definitely a chance to test your mental survival. And so if you need to, think back to that and some of the things that you may have done to kind of rein it in. And never to be missed is self-defense. There is so much involved in this. And so depending on where you are, every place has different rules, different laws, that kind of thing, right? But start with home first because that's where you are. So solid locks, motion lights, window reinforcements. And I love my solar motion lights a lot. I don't have them plugged into any power. So find some good solar motion lights, window reinforcements, and, it creates a layered defense. For personal safety, consider pepper spray. Many of the commenters the last time I mentioned this said to make sure that it's a gel so that you don't end up getting it in your eyes because that kind of defeats the purpose. If you are in a state that allows you to have a taser, I would rock a taser, I'm telling you. Consider a taser or other lethal tools that you're allowed to have in your area, knowing that not everybody does. Also, make it a point to understand the laws. You want to look into that and see how it relates to what you can or cannot do wherever you live. The fact of the matter is that disasters bring out the best in some people, right? But they bring out the worst in others. Protecting your supplies protects your family. It doesn't matter if they take the TV. Don't let them take the supplies. Don't let them take your family. Don't let them hurt you or your family. That's the important part. Stuff is stuff. But don't let them take your food. Don't let them take, the important stuff, not the TV. The TV is not important. Why anybody steals a TV when there's no power, I will never understand that. After Hurricane Katrina, some neighborhoods created watch groups. Very cool. Coming together, you got a people to meet your people, right? They deterred looters simply by being visible. That's it. Sometimes that's all you have to do is be visible. Water independence. Being able to ensure that you can get yourself the water that you need, okay? Water filters like the Sawyer, the Berkey, the Life Straw, that kind of thing. Purification tablets, stored jugs, rain barrels. That is water independence right there. Not relying on the municipality if you have water delivered that way. Not relying on, different things bringing you the water. You need to be able to know that you have some water. Remember, it's, 3 weeks without food, but it's 3 days without water. And contaminated water can take you down faster than starvation. So you have to be able to clean the water that you're obtaining if you don't already have it stored. In the California wildfires, Families who had rainwater catchment or stored water barrels never worried while their neighbors lined up at aid stations. That's the kind of thing that you have to be aware of. First, you have to be aware you have to take care of yourself. You're responsible for that. And believe me when I tell you that nobody is coming to save you. So if your idea of a really great time is going and standing someplace in town to get a little bit of water handed to you, instead of being at home with your rain barrels, with your water catchment, we got to talk about hobbies. Yeah. It's not always about stuff, okay? It's about skills. It can't be just skills and it can't be just stuff. There has to be a happy medium there where you have your stuff, but you also have skills. Skills are equally as important. When practical skills, especially like sewing, gardening, fire starting, basic plumbing, basic plumbing, uh, how to read a map. Some people don't know how to read a map. Generator maintenance. Okay. I've talked about it in other videos where if you are living with your spouse or your family, but specifically your spouse, okay, and your spouse takes care of certain things and you take care of other things, and then all of a sudden, say your spouse is laid up due to an injury, or God forbid, they're not with you anymore, then you need to take over those responsibilities. But they always did them, so you don't know how to do them. Every single month this year, I am having Phil show me different things that he does that I just count on him to do so that I know that if I need to, I can take it over and do it. I am learning about the generator. As goofy as it sounds, okay, because it has not ever been something that I had to tackle. I wanted to replace one of the toilet seats, you know, the whole top and seat and everything. And we picked one up, and I told him, I said, you know what? I always rely on you to just swap those out for me. I want you to show me how to do it. So that's what I'm doing this week. I'm learning how to put on a toilet seat. Now that may seem very basic to you know, some people, but for me, it's not something I tackle. I handle a million other things. And that's one of the things that he tackles if it needs to be done, because it's something that he has experience in. I don't. I let him tackle it. Why take on one more thing when I don't have to? Ta-da. Okay. Because I need to know. That's why I need to know. So I'm going to learn how to do that. I'm learning how to take care of the generator. I'm learning how to do a bunch of different things that I don't want to learn how to do. But at some point or another, I'm going to need to know how to do. So pay attention to the people that you live with in your house that have certain chores that you don't have to deal with because you got enough, right? And start learning how to do those if you don't already. Supplies run out. That's a fact. But skills don't. You will always have those skills. You will take them with you wherever you go. So skills are something that you never ever lose. If this seems overwhelming, I want you to just take a deep breath, because it doesn't have to be. You don't have to know it all tomorrow by noon. You really don't. Okay, there's no pop quiz. But you want to look at kind of a phased approach to handling all of this. So break prepping into stages. That's the easiest way. Kind of like we do our pantries. We have this category here and this category here, right? Break prepping as a whole into stages. Start with light, and then water, and then sanitation, and then expand. You know, you just kind of work the steps. And again, you don't have to know it all tomorrow. But if you set yourself up, okay, I'm going to work on light this week. I'm going to work on water next week. Okay, week number 3, I'm going to start figuring out the whole sanitation issue. You know, I'm going to figure out the heat situation. I'm going to, you know, just make yourself a list. Give yourself a week and figure out how you're going to handle it all. You don't have to do it all at once, because that makes it overwhelming, and none of this should be overwhelming. You are building yourself the best insurance policy that money can buy, because nobody can ever take it away from you. Okay. You are preparing for the unknown. You are not preparing for the end of the world as you know it. You're preparing for everyday normal emergencies. And this is one of the ways that you do it. Everybody loses power at some point or another. This way, you know you can handle it regardless of the season. I don't have any money. I hear it all the time. Okay. So you don't have to go to the store and you don't have to buy it brand new. I love thrift stores. I have found some of the most amazing things at thrift stores. Does it happen exactly when you want it to? No. But if you have a list and you buzz in and out of there, the trick with thrift stores is that when you start going to them, you start making up excuses for, ooh, that's really cool. No, if you don't need it, don't buy it. You have to show that same restraint that you do in other stores. But thrift stores, yard sales, dollar stores to some extent, repurposing what you already own is the perfect prep. Prepping doesn't have to drain your bank account. That's not what it's about, because that actually makes you more unprepared. A viewer once told me that they built a complete sanitation kit for $18 based on stuff that they could get at the dollar store. 18 things, right? Buckets, liners, gloves, bleach, wipes, all budget friendly. So you have just taken care of that entire issue for under 20 bucks. It might cost a little bit more now because what is it, $1.25 to $1.75, but you get the drift. You don't have to spend a whole bunch of money. What you also want to do is you want to come back and you want to review it. Make an ongoing assessment of where you're at and what you're doing, because as you become prepared, you will graduate to different phases of preparedness. You're not going to become a number one the minute that you start. But if you concentrate on, okay, I've got those battery operated candles. Okay, great. Lights taken care of. Now we're going to work on water. And then you get a life straw. And now we're going to take care of sanitation. And you go to the dollar store and you set yourself up an entire kit for that. Well, you work through everything and then you're not done. It doesn't work that way. Then you go back and you revisit lights and you go, okay, how can I add a better light solution, more of a light solution, a layer of a different light solution in case something happens to my battery operated candles? So then you get a headlamp, and then you go to water, and from water you go to a filtration system, a larger one, and then from there you go to sanitation and you look at different things for that, a composting toilet or whatever instead of a bucket. However you want to progress, however you can afford to progress is how you want to do it. It's not a set it and forget it, because there's always a slightly better way to do it or another layer to add on, because having a backup to your backup is a really important part of preparedness. So here's the bottom line. Food storage is vital. Not going to argue about that, but it's not enough. It's not enough, and we need to think beyond just food storage. So look at your light, your heat, your options for hygiene, security, water, and the skills that you have to get you through difficult times. These invisible essentials are what take you from just surviving to truly enduring. Skills will help you endure the difficult times. Which of these are the weakest points for you right now? Throw it in the comment section down below. And the one that gets mentioned the most, I'll do a video on very shortly. Because tackling it together is the most fun way to tackle any kind of project, right? And if you know somebody who thinks that food is the only plan, share the video with them. Have some fun. If you want to check out more about water, check out this video right here. Until next time, everybody, be safe. Stack it to the rafters, my friends.